If you're watching this video, you have 60 seconds to solve this puzzle. Go! Nah, I'm just kidding. This puzzle is not solvable in 60 seconds by my reckoning, but I did enjoy it so much, and it is a much easier puzzle than normal, so I wanted to make a game out of it. And the game is go to the link. It's at the bottom of the video, and it'll be in the description. Go to the link to open this puzzle yourself, set a timer for 60 seconds, and see how far you can get through it. There's quite a few layers that you can get through without doing any real work in just 60 seconds. Definitely feel free to use Google, wink wink, and anything other tools that you might think of. But you only have 60 seconds to see how far you can get, and then come back to this video and I'll give you a scale of 1 to 5 ducks on how far you got. So go ahead and pause now. And I'm assuming you did it. I'm assuming you opened the puzzle. You solved the whole thing, right? So now, on to the ducks. What everyone's been waiting for. So, turn your first duck. All you have to do is you look at this puzzle, you look at these sentences. I know they're very colorful and interesting, but if you thought to yourself, you know what? All of this gibberish, this is just scrambled up sets of 3 letters, right? I bet I could rearrange these into full sentences. You did it. You outsmarted one duck. Scrambled sentences. That's all you had to think, right? So, now the second duck is going to be a little trickier, because what you got to do is you got to look for evidence. You got to say to yourself, what evidence is there to back up my hypothesis, right? And here's probably one of my favorite things about this puzzle. This has a lot going for it, but I don't know if they designed it around this or if this is just this wonderful happy coincidence. But not only is this I think this is like one of the only black texts which really just jumps out among a lot of other lighter things. I mean, look, you can't even read that. What is that? But among a lot of lighter text, you have this sentence that jumps out not only because of its color, but because of the blee 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 doo doo. And what does that mean? Well, if you're looking for a sentence, right? That jumps out not only with its sort of repetition, but you probably notice that it makes the words double and double again. Now, what sentence do you know? How about double double toil and trouble? So if you picked out the sentence double double toil and trouble just by seeing the intro to that right there, you beat 2 ducks to this puzzle right here. Double, double, toil and trouble. Now, bonus points if you noticed this little guy right here, I mentioned OOU, because the sentence double, double, toil and trouble doesn't have a double O anywhere in it. That's a lot of doubles. But you might think about that and think, man, that little guy doesn't appear in the sentence anywhere. I mean, we've got TOIL, we've got and so everything else is there, right? But why is that OOU? And I'll mention that later. But bonus points if you saw that, scratched your head, and maybe moved on. So that's the second layer of what could be noticed here. Now the third layer is if you were able to pick out where that was from or Google it in the time limit, because I had to do that. But anyway, if you figured out it was from Macbeth, you beat 3 ducks, folks. 3 ducks right there. That's right. The Tragedy of Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble. Also, you can find the text of every work of Shakespeare on shakespeare.mit.edu. How handy is that for the MIT puzzle hunt, huh? But yeah, so we've got that's right at the top of Macbeth. Everyone's heard it before. You might not be able to place exactly what play it is, but I said use Google, so that's fair game. In 60 seconds, I think I could do 3 ducks here. Now, here's where it gets tricky. For the 4th duck, I don't think I win. I did this without doing any work on the puzzle. I can't say I did it in 60 seconds. I wasn't on the clock when I solved this thing. So, for the 4th duck, you spotted this example sentence. You unscrambled it. You figured out, hey, that's from Macbeth. Maybe you noticed, right, that the title reinforces that a lot. The title, The Scottish Display, Macbeth was Scottish. So, if you got that far, the 4th duck though, to earn your 4th duck, you got to do the following. You got to start counting. Now, counting is in every puzzler's toolbox. But this one, if you count up the bullet points, I like to do it in 5s. My eye really jumps to the number 5 pretty well. So you could do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 3 more is 28. So if you're, that took me what, 4 seconds, and that was out loud too. So you can count these lines. There's 28 of them, and Google the following question. And this is those expert puzzlers out there. I know you're out there. You did this without looking, right? So you say 28. Now I wonder about all of this because, oh, and I should say one more thing. You might have also noticed these sentences are alphabetized, at least in scrambled form, right? But see, all these start with A, and then we have B's and C's and some D's and E's and even a G at the end. But they're in alphabetical order, which hints to the experienced puzzler that they need to be reordered. And counting that 28, you might say to yourself, how many scenes are there in Macbeth? And the answer is 28 scenes. So the deduction that I made before, now I didn't do this in 60 seconds, but I was able to get this far. Before doing any other work on this puzzle, I didn't make a spreadsheet, I didn't do anything, right? I just looked at it, made those 2 Googles to figure out Macbeth and how many scenes were in it. And if you deduced that we are eventually going to reorder these sentences by the act and scene number they come in, that's worth 4 ducks, folks. That is 4 whole ducks that you are smarter than. So that's pretty tricky. I think that is like, you're already in the top like 0.1%, by the way. Like, that's, if you can do that in 60 seconds, we're way better than me. So speed solvers out there, that's how far you got to get for 4 ducks, right? Is you can figure out not only that is Macbeth the theme of this puzzle, and not only all these quotes from Macbeth, but that there are just as many as there are scenes, and that we'll end up reordering them by act and scene number, then that there will be 1 quote per scene in Macbeth. That's a lot to handle. That's a lot in 60 seconds, I know. But I think there's one more tier, and I gotta one up myself. I gotta make sure I'm not in the top tier, because no way is that true. but the 5th duck, the elusive, the holographic mint edition duck, has to do with the colors, of course. You might be asking at this point, well, all these colors, what are they for? So at this point, and again, I'm saying without doing any work, because if you do some work on this puzzle, there are some clues. It really clearly gives you hints on what to do next, right? But this next bit, big brain geniuses out there, as soon as you hit Macbeth, you might have even only reached 3 ducks. You might have even not gotten the 4th duck, but you don't have to. If you figure this next part out, you jump straight to your 5th duck, my friend, because if you have heard of the Macbeth color checker, you are so I want you on my trivia team. I think we could win a lot of money and a lot of beer at bars at trivia, because I've not only did you have to have heard this, but you had to recall it before, or even Google like Macbeth colors or something. Like, I wouldn't have done that in 60 seconds. If you were able to pin down that the Macbeth color checker was going to be the interesting mechanic behind this puzzle in the first 60 seconds of looking at it, yeah, that's your mint edition 5th duck right there, because that's what's going on at the end of this puzzle. So all things considered, I'll make a couple more notes about how this puzzle works and reveal the whole thing, and then I'll make some comments on it. So I think I have to hit the solution here. So how this works is, as I said, I gave an example. You got to unscramble every sentence. One of the really well-known ones is fair is foul and foul is fair, but there's a couple others. I will say most of these are pretty obscure. I haven't heard these. You really have to memorize the entire play of Macbeth in order to recognize most of these sentences. But it is a fun sort of scrambling anagram game to do these on your own, and you can use, again, shakespeare.mit.edu has all the text, so you can kind of start using Control F to search for if you can pick out specific words and that kind of thing. Very, very fun mechanic. So you do all this, you sort by act and scene number that the line appears in. And then what? Well, I mentioned bonus points for OOU in fair is foul and foul is fair, right? There's this OOU that is definitely nowhere in the phrase, can I find it? Double, double, toil and trouble, right? There's no double O in here. But it turns out, so that trigram comes right in here, and the O, one of the O's, is extra. So every sentence ends up having an extra letter, and that's why I made it bonus points. Right? I don't think that's something in 60 seconds. That's a pattern that you really are more likely to notice as you work through everything and pull these all out. You'll find that every sentence has one extra letter added to it. So when you sort the sentences by their scenes, those extra letters will spell this hidden message on the right. It says apply appropriate color checker. It's here. I was going to say it's kind of hard to read vertically, but that's the secret message. So the color checker is the big hint. Where at this point you must have noticed the Macbeth. In order to get all these sentences worked out, you have to know it's Macbeth. So sure enough, right, if you Google color checker and Macbeth, it might take a couple tries. You might have to make some, try some different things, but it's not too hard to find. There's a Wikipedia page for it, the Macbeth color checker. Um, and interestingly enough, it's actually the click for it comes down here, right, where you sort of have this 1 to 24, but alternatively you can just go left to right and eyeball these colors. They're very distinct. But in the source code of the page of the puzzle here, if you can just right click and hit view page source, right, they have all the color codes, really nifty right there. You can match those up to the Wikipedia table. They're all here in hexadecimal. So if you match those up and number the color checker up here, I should say from like 1 to 24 all the way across, you can then get those numbers. I have completely lost track of these pages. Let's see. There's the solution. You can go ahead, number these out, and then convert those numbers into letters to get a new hidden message. So here they have an example. You can go look at this more if you want. The hidden message finally is name of SW Paint 6234. That's another Google. Definitely you're not going to be able to get that far until the end, right? Not in 60 seconds anyway. But that's a Google of SW Paint, stands for Sherwin-Williams Paint. It's a color code of a brand name. And the paint name is Uncertain Gray, which is hilariously relevant to, I don't know, the whole theme of Macbeth. I thought it fit really well. It was a neat, cheeky answer. So, this is a very cool puzzle for a number of reasons. I love all of the pieces fit together really well. There's no like unnecessary stuff or red herrings or anything like that. It works really well. It's very easy as far as MIT puzzles go, because later there's going to be some insanity, right? But this is very transparent as to kind of what you can do. It has like the double toil and trouble jumping out at you is very helpful. Sometimes you have puzzles like this where either the theme is too obscure or maybe like just nothing, you just don't get a freebie. Like sometimes you really just need one of these freebies to kind of get you on the right track to see like, oh, like what, you get one and then what might that imply about the others. And so that works. This works really well for that, because sometimes I've had that trouble with other puzzles where you just you can't even get one, or even if you do get one or two or three, you can't easily tell what they have in common, or there's not something very significant about them. So so this puzzle had that going for it really well. And another reason that I wanted to make this little 60-second game is because this puzzle works. I think it's so important for the inexperienced and the people that haven't tried the MIT Mystery Hunt before. A lot of these puzzles, I mean, heck, the next video I'm going to do with Trebuchet and maybe Snow Job, those are tough puzzles. If you've never done this kind of thing before, those are mean. What's the other one I did? It was the guide, the brochure, also pretty mean. Very dependent on flavor text. Here there's no flavor text, which I always consider a plus one. I think everything kind of speaks for itself. I don't know, it's just a game of looking for patterns, and I love it because it's a really good introduction. Like I feel like I could really show anyone this puzzle as an introduction to like the MIT Puzzle Hunt, which really is the pinnacle of difficulty out there. Like there is not much that I would consider more difficult than the MIT Puzzle Hunt, right? So, but in terms of like showing this to anyone, like this puzzle is there. This, I would say, like this is the perfect first puzzle of the 2020 hunt, because it's so accessible. Like even if you've never done it before and no idea, I mean, if you're the kind of person that would actually get stuck, I mean, even converting like these into letters, right? These colors into A through X, or I think it goes as far as X. Not you don't need Y and Z. But something like that, you might stumble over, so you might not be able to finish the puzzle. But I love how this kind of has something for the amateur, right? It lets you play this little word game that you might see in like an old newspaper, right? When you have all those word games, it's something like that, and then there's a theme that's easy to identify. It's something everyone's heard of, Shakespeare, and you can do a little research and kind of, I don't know, and it has some again, the trivia at the end. I hadn't heard of this. It's really interesting to know this is out there and what it's used for. There's all sorts of things for this puzzle that have it going, but I think the strength here is that it's so good for beginners, because Man, it's a sad day when like a puzzle hunt starts and I just feel like I have to put every ounce of brain power into the first couple puzzles, right? Because they're made for experts. It's like, I don't know. It's so hard to show. How do you show this to your friends? How do you make this a hobby, and have fun with this? If you can't explain it to anyone because it's all this super convoluted mess. And I think I really appreciate this puzzle for hitting that sweet spot of like definitely being fun for someone like me who's done a lot of puzzle hunts, but also like having being accessible to people that haven't. So um, I really appreciated this puzzle. I loved how it all really wrapped up. Again, the title was relevant. The answer kind of fit. I mean, Macbeth being a tragedy, it just fit really well and fit with Macbeth and colors and all of that. Multiple levels of trivia again. Some of the really standard puzzling techniques, ordering, indexing, just spotting the pattern. I thought it was really good, and I really appreciated that. So hopefully you got as many ducks as you're worth. And I'll if I see any puzzles where I can do this later, I'll try. But I'll be honest, there are not a lot of puzzles in the MIT hunt that you can advance this far just by looking at it. I think this was really an exception for that, and I loved it. Um, so thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. The next one, I think I'm going to do a video on a pair of puzzles, one which is good and one which is bad. I think they complement each other very well. In that sense, they are almost too similar. So, stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.